Today we're going to break down a ton of actionable SEO tips you can use in your day-to-day to make an impact on your website. Hi, I'm Ross Hudgens, founder of Siege Media. We're a company that does a ton of SEO in our day-to-day. We've grown to over 120 people as an impact of the ability to actually move the needle for our clients' SEO, and we'll share all of those lessons and tips in this video today. So if high impact SEO and content marketing tips are up your alley, make sure you jam that notification bell, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos just like this. So the first tip on the content marketing side is change your blog index to show 15 plus posts. So something we'll frequently see is people will default to this kind of blasé looking blog index without being thoughtful. And if you're putting out a lot of content tied to search, this will often bury a lot of content deep in your index. So by showing 15 plus posts, you're not only solving for user experience and getting people a lot of options to look through and find what they want, you also get things closer to the homepage, which solves for good internal linking best practice. Similar to that related linking thought, we also suggest on each category showing 3 posts in that category that are random. Something we also very frequently see if you go to your blog is the related linking might exist, but you might default to most recent or most recent random. You do want to make sure you're getting content surface in each of these areas. For extra points, make this manually selected where you can put the most important posts each time you publish, and also relevant posts to that category to make sure it's most relevant for that piece of content. Content updates are becoming more and more important in the SEO world. Our general suggestion there is to actually make smaller updates iteratively rather than one big update once a year where it's possible in your workflow. So an example of this is to make a 20% change of your content or 25% change 4 times a year rather than 100% once a year. This allows you to stay competitive from a timestamp standpoint in the search results. It does not manipulate those dates. You want to make sure you're making true updates rather than fake ones. So it's better to make iterative updates. Of course, be aware when this is not feasible. You really do have to do a massive overhaul of the content. Another common thing we see are huge hero images on content sections. We suggest making these smaller on average, still have a pop of color, but the smaller image that still allows you to do that will allow you to build faster page experiences, which helps with core web vitals and is going to drive more results over time. Many people thought of these big hero images as so inspiring, but reality is the reality of today's world. You want to make a faster experience, and these can be prohibitive to accomplishing that. Another thing about that above the fold area is simply that you want to establish trust without making the user leave the website. So a good way to do this is, one, make a compelling, good-looking content experience that establishes trust up front. That's a no-brainer. But other elements that are critical or can help with that are showing credibility in about sections without leaving the page. So examples of that are the hover effects that you see here that show credibility of the author and will give you details about why you should trust them for that writing above the fold. I've also seen this shown in a right rail with a little author name. Even accreditation in the name will also establish some trust if it's attached to a brand that I recognize and all of that. And if you are a recognizable brand, you can kind of shortchange and not always accomplish this, but very often you become a recognizable brand through the iterative changes like this over time. As a final part of this above the fold area, we generally suggest using the PPB formula, preview proof benefit, to establish credibility up front. You can do this with author bios, but other ways you can do it is simply stating it. Brian Dean does a great job of this with his content, where he effectively will tell you why he's an SEO expert in terms of delivering results in some of these topics that show that you should trust him for that SEO advice. We've done that similarly in this post because we do this for a living and are hopefully a large, decently successful company, and because of that, hopefully are trustworthy for that reason. Your business can give frequent other examples of that. I've seen examples such as we've done the most mortgage loans in the United States. That kind of idea will establish credibility. And you also want to share the preview and the benefit of what's to come. It can be compelling to show you have post templates, high quality videos, images, and you explain that up front. That'll give reasons for people to stick, and that will improve your rankings over time. KOB analysis is a huge part of a successful SEO strategy. We use this up front to look at keyword difficulty and also benefit against scope to know when we should be doing content and when in what order. This will allow you to layer up to more difficult topics and be successful over time. So check out our spreadsheet and our full video on this process. Once you've done that KOB analysis, you should be able to find passive link ideas as part of this. We highly recommend doing these very early in the process, especially the low difficulty ones in your plan. This will allow you to power the rest of your strategy. Some examples of passive link topics with consistency are statistics posts, trends posts, definition posts. Generally anything where someone is trying to grab one data point and reference it on their website will be passive link intent. So it could be the cost of remodeling your bathroom. Generally math, numbers, those kinds of search terms, however they're represented in your industry, will result in those numbers over time. So prioritize those early, and as part of this as well, especially depending on the authority of your website, really emphasize those in your internal linking to them everywhere you can, where it makes sense, in the nav, in the footer, etc. And this will allow you to benefit from that. They'll power the rest of your strategy. On these passive link posts in particular, especially ones that curate data, a very powerful strategy we would add to this is add your internal data as some of those statistics. Some people will actually reference trends or data and only use third parties, and this is actually doing themselves a disservice, because if you have internal data and you put it high in the architecture of the post and still cite other data, people will actually reference your content first. Some reporters and bloggers will never link to a stats or trends post. They will go to the source that's linked to. You got to think of these posts as effectively an anchor or hub of other posts that get linked. So in our analysis, we've actually seen a hub post get 1,000 links, and then the top 5 results on that post all had 500 plus as well. So that's an example of how you can effectively build a passive link engine simply by ranking for that and then putting your own data on those posts. As a final part of this process, would suggest searching people looking for your definitions or looking for your statistics and referencing them but not citing you. So this is an opportunity to simply Google the definition that you use on your post, and you actually find pretty amazingly, people will use your definition and then almost verbatim and not link back to you. So that's an opportunity to very kindly reach out and say, we saw you use our definition, that's totally fine, but please, could you cite us appropriately? Brand mentions and link reclamation are a powerful part of link acquisition, and it's low-hanging fruit that we generally suggest doing. But beyond that link reclamation, we generally would avoid doing manual link building for the most part. So our increasingly new educated process on this, and this is coming from someone who did a ton of manual link building, is if you architect your strategy correctly for using the steps we described in this process, you should be able to generate a ton of links through organic link building and passive link building over time. And this assumes you have good product market fit and a good product and a good website, and you emphasize those things correctly. Links will come, and you just have to make sure you layer it up to the right process. If you do a lot of manual outreach, it will actually deter from the emphasis on content quality and cause you problems on a long enough timeline. Another part of SEO is simply knowing what not to do that might check a box of an SEO best practice. Focus on high impact, not on fixing 404s. We're not saying just don't fix 404s. It's more that if you find 404s on a post that's super old, changing that link likely is not going to make a difference on your website. Don't just simply input your website into an SEO audit tool and expect to get the best practices. You have to know where to emphasize. Look at the content that is the most important for you, improve those on a UX standpoint, look to make site-wide UX changes, make high impact through passive link building, all of those things. But on a general framework, think about high impact, not simply checking every single box of an audit. A big keyword research strategy we would suggest is using audience-first research. Many people will go straight to a tool, and what that does is you find the same keywords everyone else finds, and you also find content that will not convert. So an example we actually use in our own experience, content curation is a post that we easily could find in Google and think is relevant for us here at Siege Media. But the reality is a lot of that is social media focused, and we do SEO-driven content marketing here at Siege. If we'd simply defaulted to keyword research, we would have found topics that do not convert for us. But instead, if we think about audience research first, we're putting ourselves in the mind of the buyer. And what I mean by that is try to write down a list of keywords without doing keyword volume, knowing your buyer persona. And if you don't know the buyer persona, go get to know it. And do that over time, and you'll realize you'll find topics that might not show clear search volume, but will have high intent. So there's some examples that we list, like keyword cost, jargon terms in your industry, competitor, you versus your competitor, competitor alternatives, cost of your product, like content marketing cost. All those things kind of tie in and have value very often from a conversion standpoint. So if you always use those, even if the keyword tools tell you there isn't anything there, you'll have a lot of impact over time. So titles are a huge part of SEO, so we suggest using the title tag formula BRAVE when thinking through how to write compelling titles. So what BRAVE means is brand, recentness, amount, velocity, and economy. So the quick version of each of those is make your post title compelling from a freshness standpoint. Recentness would mean you published it recently. Is it this year or even as much as this month? Is your post timestamp also recent? That also makes it different. Amount is relevant. If you're trying to be competitive with the number of results, that will show that you're compelling and worth clicking on as compared to something with 40 more. You do need to be cognizant when too many results is not actually helpful, such as a list of SEO tools. You might not want 5,000 tools. You might rather want the 10 important tools you need to perform your high quality search. Velocity is another one. It's effectively how quickly you can get someone value. That could be just simply speed, like how to graduate as an RN in 12 months, or it could be helping people do their job easier. It could be a free template, a calculator. That technically is velocity to that value in a way of thinking about it. Economy is effectively, are you a low price option if that's applicable to you? So if you're searching cheap t-shirts and you found $1 t-shirts and you sold $1 t-shirts, you could include that. Also common references are flights. So if I did cheap flights to San Diego and I knew that there was an offering from $39, I could put that in my title tag and be relevant and make users want to click that. You do need to deliver on that promise or it'll be a bad user experience, but that's just something that can be included. And then finally, brand is a very important element that should it be important for you, you should include it. If people recognize you or you want to build a brand eventually, having that there is going to be important, but make sure it's just the brand. If you add something like the Siege Media content marketing blog on the end of your title tag, that will get too long, and generally longer title tags will perform worse. So this is a quick rapid fire take on a lot of the biggest and best SEO tips that we have. We have deeper videos on a lot of these, which go a lot further in depth that we suggest checking out through either the links in this post or in the comments, or click the cards as you progress through this video. But hopefully you enjoyed it. We'd love to hear your SEO tips as well. Make sure you jam that notification bell, hit like, subscribe, and we'll see you in future videos.